to the panel.
And good morning. I know I'm supposed to answer the question, but what I chose to do is to
Dr. Kibuti, we've lost you.
My apologies, Victoria. You've asked me a question, but what I choose to do this morning is to do a little introduction in form of a PowerPoint presentation so that now we can build up a conversation from there. So without much further ado, let me just do my presentation, and by the end of it, I'll have answered the question that Victoria has just asked me. So let me share my PowerPoint, and Victoria, confirm that you can see what I've put on the screen.
Yes, we can see it. Kindly put it to slide view.
That's what I want to do.
Thank you.
My upper screen is just a minute. There we go. Are we there?
Yes, we are. Yes, we are, Dr. Ari. You can proceed.
So I want to take you quickly through the my topic that I've prepared for you today, whereby we want to explore what's the relationship between intimate relationship and mental health. And to start with is what's happening with my laptop? Just give me a minute. I think I chose the wrong thing. My apologies, kindly.
That's okay, Doc. Take your time.
I don't know what's happening to this slide here. Just a minute. Let me close and come back again with it. It's a very short presentation, so don't worry. Victoria, are you able to see?
Not yet, Dr. Ari.
Just 1 minute, just 1 minute. My apologies, my most apologies.
Okay, we'll get there. Now we can see.
You can see it now, eh?
Yes, yes.
Sorry, my apologies. Technology is not our portion.
That's okay. We can proceed. We are able to view.
But now I'm not able to move the slide. Why? So I'll start as I'm trying to find out. Are you there with me?
Yeah, we can see Happy Valentine's Day.
Thank you, thank you. Now we are moving. So I'll start by wishing you a happy Valentine's Day. It's a great day, and I hope you're feeling the love in the air. And I'll go quickly to the introduction to say that indeed love is a beautiful thing, especially when shared by people who are physically, emotionally, and mentally okay. Mental health usually dictates how we interact with the environment, and most importantly, the people who are around us. And one of the most significant components of our lives as human beings is relationship. In fact, we are socially linked to our family, our friends, our community, our colleagues at work, and many other people around us. So therefore, if we live a happy, harmonious and calm, environment, it goes without saying that we will be able to have a good mental health. There's a phrase that people will say, and they joke about saying that love makes people go crazy, which is true. Especially it can turn true if we underestimate the impact of mental health on relationships. Moving on into the introduction is Victoria. Sorry, my slides are not moving. What has happened now again? Victoria, can I quickly share these slides with you, project them from your side?
Yeah, or maybe you can just exit slideshow and then just let us move on without the slideshow. If you exit slideshow, it may be better.
Oh, okay. Let me
I
see
think
how to go.
we will be able to move.
There's this key that is coming here, which I think is a key that is confusing.
Okay. It's
We can
moving right
continue.
now. Yeah,
Thank
we
you.
can.
So it is good for us at this point to appreciate and to know that nearly half of the adults experience a mental illness at least one time in their life. And I'll explain to you some of the mental illnesses we can experience so that you don't feel so immune. And research and practical experience tells us that mental illness can cause a person to have a decreased quality of life, decreased productivity and employment, and even impair our physical and relationship health. And the connection between relationship and mental health is undeniable. We are going to see why. It is good to appreciate at this point that when your mental health is in good shape, you're able to devote time, energy, and ensure that you have healthy relationship. When you're in good mental shape, also, it's easy to nurture bonds that you care about, and you're able to steer clear of toxic relationship, and you're able even to see those toxic relationships from far. But when you're in a good mental state. But on the opposite is that when you have poor mental health, it can take a toll on a number of many things, from your physical health, your work performance, your romantic relationship, and other boards. We are going to say how. And there's a study that was done in 2017 that actually found that people who have depression, anxiety, are more likely to get a divorce. It is good at this point for us to appreciate that stressful life events in a relationship can trigger onset of mental illness. Just imagine if you're in a relationship where you're being kicked and beaten every morning or every evening, you're scared when you hear that bell ringing, you don't know what is going to find you. So stressful life events in a relationship can trigger the onset of a mental disorder for a person who has never had a disorder before, including the post-traumatic stress disorder. Someone can start having depression, anxiety, and they can resort to substances to cope. I'll talk about substances as I end this presentation. On the other hand, also people who have existing mental health disorders, especially those that are not treated, may affect relationship negatively, including when you have a mental health disorder at the beginning and you fail to disclose to your partner. So I've already said that if you have untreated mental condition, it can impact all aspects of your life, including your relationship. So there may be no, of course, we know that for people, the most relationship that may be affected from untreated or presence of a mental health is the intimate relationship, because you share a bond. Is more than a friendship. You share more than just a friendship. So that intimate relationship is highly affected by mental health. But the good news is that at this point is that to be in a healthy, loving, and a long-term partnership with someone who has mental health, it is very much possible. But the trick is that communication is very key to having a healthy, positive relationship. Whether you have mental health challenges or you don't, communication is the key, is the gum for any relationship. And at that point, I'll pause and say that, therefore, learning how mental health affects a relationship is very important. because it's very hard to maintain and work through a relationship when a person suffers from mental health, especially when it is not treated. So it is reason enough that we should be aware of the impact of mental health on relationship and how what we can do about it and how we can fix the gap between relationship and mental health. So I'll quickly take you to this to explain how poor mental health can impact relationship. How poor mental health can impact relationship. And number one that can happen when there is poor mental health in relationship is resentment, shame, and guilt. This is because having a mental illness is hard enough. But then the stigma associated with mental health condition can add to extra layers of stress for both partners. The person with a mental illness may feel ashamed, embarrassed, or guilty about their condition. They may try to hide their symptoms or fail to seek help when needed. Meanwhile, their partner may feel confused or frustrated by their inability to seek help. Let us say that, for example, you are feeling shame about your mental illness and you try to hide it. Your partner may feel frustrated that you are not seeking help. And this can cause resentment to build on both sides. In some cases, these people, especially when they have depression and anxiety, they may find it very difficult to follow through with household tasks. They have limited emotional availability, struggle to maintain employment, and lack of desire to socialize. And these people, you'll also find that for their partners, because of this behavior and challenges, they put a strain on their partner and they can put a strain on the relationship. And the partner may feel disappointed, rejected, and they might disconnect. So part of it is that poor mental health can lead to resentment, guilt, and shame. The other thing that we see in poor mental health is that it brings about intimate issues, intimacy problems, because having mental health illness can make a person disinterested in sex, especially when you're going through depression. One of the things that goes on when people have depression is decreased libido. And sometimes the decreased libido also can be brought about by the treatment that we use to manage these conditions, especially the antidepressants medication. Some may bring about decreased libido, but that does not mean that you avoid treatment, because any side effect, we say that if you develop a side effect, the best thing is to come to the doctor, explain the side effect, and there's always a solution. So poor mental health can decrease libido, and this, of course, will impact on your sexual life and can make your partner feel ignored or unwanted. And many people with mental health condition may also feel inadequate and may have performance anxiety and low self-esteem. It is good to appreciate at this point that for both partners, this can lead to decreased opportunities for bonding and result in unmet needs, especially for the person who doesn't have the mental health. On the other side, we see even an opposite of it. When people have bipolar mood disorders, bipolar, I explain to you later, is bipolar means two. And when a person is either in mania or hypomania, we see them exhibiting very high libido. So you've had this partner who's been having average levels of libido, then all of a sudden the libidos go high. He or she wants to sleep with everybody they see around. And of course, for a person who is not understanding what this means, this can cause also a lot of strain in a relationship. Something else that can happen is, of course, codependency, and codependency will result to burnout. And for the sake of this presentation, codependency is an unhealthy relationship pattern that manifests as one partner enabling another person's poor mental health behavior, addiction, or coping strategy. So one partner is doing the wrong thing, but this other good partner is enabling that just to cope. And the person with the mental illness may start to derive their self-worth to the degree which they are needed and how much they are able to take care of their loved one. And in extreme cases of codependency, we have seen that there's an increased risk of abusive behaviors, including manipulation, name calling, and other very unhealthy dynamics. So, and of course, I'll talk about this burnout as we come to an end. Another thing that happens is broken communication. Just imagine someone who has depression. And we know that one of the key presentation of depression sometimes is these people want to keep to themselves. They want to stay alone. They want to stay locked up in their house. Even some want to stay under their bed. They don't want to talk to anyone. They have low mood. And you're in a relationship, you're in your honeymoon, and your partner develops depression, and suddenly they don't want to talk to anyone. So when partner is experiencing that, the other partner may get disoriented and not be able to communicate. And I say that communication is the cement for any relationship. So mental health, sometimes it may bring about broken communication. It may make other people not be able to get into a relationship. For example, when people have situations like social anxiety disorder, for example, which makes you not want to be in social setting. This condition may make people feel very anxious in social situations, and they're not even able to go out for dates. They are not even able to go out in crowds. They want to stay on their own in their houses. And this can make people not even be able to even have a relationship. And of course, all what I've said interferes with emotional bonds. And when people have mental illness, they may spend less time together because one is moody, one wants to stay on their own, and then it may bring about your loved ones feeling as if they are walking around eggshells around you because they don't know, they feel confused about your symptoms. They may not be able to express their difficulties, and maybe you're not also expressing the difficulty. Then it makes people stop sharing, and they fear hurting you. So when they're around you, they feel as if they're walking around eggshells. Quickly, some mental health issues that may bring out difficulties in relationship. We've seen things like post-traumatic stress disorder. I don't want to use very key term because I'm not converting people into psychiatrists this morning. But when people have, especially unaddressed post-traumatic stress disorder, they have challenges with distrusting others. They may experience confusion, flashback, nightmares. They have sleep issues. They are not able to sleep. They become fearful being alone, and they become codependent. They are emotionally not stable. And of course, some of the time they lash out in anger. Sometimes they feel shame, guilty, and denial because of what is making them get this disorder. So it can affect the interaction between them. Major depressive disorder, on the other hand, I've already said about it. It presents with low moods, wanting to keep to yourself, not eating, not sleeping, or sleeping too much. All these things can affect, if it's a mother, he has no even energy to wake up and take care of the children, or even the husband, or if it's a husband, they're not even going to work. You lose your job, and then that one, of course, if anybody loses their work at this point, we know the economy, how it is. There's no way you're going to have a loving relationship in such a situation. So, and of course, generalized anxiety disorder, and I've given an example of social anxiety disorder, whereby you're not able to interact, even going out for a date. You're too anxious, you can't even leave your house. And you've seen these people who cannot even leave their house. They are confined to their houses because of the anxiety. They fear for the worst. They are afraid of everything that might happen. They don't have any positive thoughts. They always think something is going to happen badly. Substance use, especially alcoholism, I think this one I can't overemphasize, that this is something that we are seeing breaking many relationships, breaking many families. And we are also going to find out that nobody just wakes up one morning and decides that I'm going to take alcohol till my relationship breaks or till my family breaks. Most of the time, these people who are in heavy alcoholism, there's always a challenge that is behind this heavy alcoholism. And the solution that we've always given people is not even to fight the alcoholism, is to go deep and find out what are you using alcohol to cope? And once you're able to deal with what this person is using alcohol to cope with, then you're able to deal with alcoholism. So alcoholism is a major challenge. And we know when you're drunk, it impairs your judgment, it impairs your decision making. And you can do many stupid things when you're drunk, which can impact your relationship. You can get into fights with your partner. You can insult your partners, which can affect the intimacy and relationship. Of course, I've already said about bipolar mood disorder, and I said bipolar means two, when sometimes you have episodes where you experience a lot of energy, a lot of excitement, you're talking too much, you have a lot of risky sexual behavior, risky financial behaviors, risky behaviors of even how you're acting, which can then be replaced by the opposite now when you go into the depressive disorder. So bipolar mood disorder, especially if you get into a relationship with with a patient with a bipolar mood disorder, and they don't talk about it, and you as a layperson you even don't know what it means. So you get this person is in a normal mood, all of a sudden they are shouting, they are praising God, they are feeling important, they have high libido, they are driving faster they should be, they are doing alcohol, or you get them in the opposite when they are down. And so it can be confusing and it can bring about issues in a relationship. Of course, schizophrenia is something that we see affecting relationship, which is just being distorted from reality. And sometimes people with schizophrenia, they'll stay and hear voices. And sometimes they hear voices telling them their partner wants to kill you. And you find someone who was a good husband start locking the house, put CCTVs everywhere because they are afraid the wife is going to harm them. And they may become violent because of the voices they are hearing. And we've seen many relationships which have been stable before, but once someone gets an episode, it's affected because the partner may not understand the symptoms. Attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, something very common in the society and people don't know about it. We see that people with this disorder, they are not able to pay so much attention even to the love details. They are always on the move. They are very superficial. They are not able to really love someone well, or they're in love with so many people. They get bored quickly. They start one relationship to another. So it's a disorder that, if not well controlled, can bring about challenges in relationship. And of course, personality disorders, which is, I know Victoria will talk about it because it's passionate to her, is also when we have seen people with borderline personality disorders, antisocial personality disorders, narcissistic personality disorders, who are not able to maintain a relationship, because a personality disorder is something that is long-lasting, a behavior that is out of the norm of what we expect, and then you expected to live with such a person, which might not be possible. So how do we encourage people to do? Of course, there is always a solution, and we should not run away from people with mental health issues, because none of us is immune. Anybody can have a mental disorder. So how do we do? What are the helpful tips that I want to give you this morning? To start with is to educate yourself. Learn about this condition together with your partner. This helps you gain better understanding of it and clues into how symptoms manifest and how do we go about it. Together, you learn and take time to understand every emotion, every situation and symptoms that you're feeling. Communication with your partner. We say communication is very key. Once you learn together, you'll be in a position to know that what symptoms, how they appear, and what you can do about it. The next thing that we need to encourage people is to practice your communication skills. Always speak openly, honestly about your feelings, needs, and concerns. Use active listening skills, seeking to get understood and asking for clarification for things you don't understand. But then when you're supporting, when we do not support hiding mental health status from your partner, because if anyone hides a mental health status from their partner, they may put their partner in very awkward and horrifying situation. Imagine you're having an intimate moment or you're in a social setting and suddenly there's a mental breakdown and there's a partner you didn't know. This one can leave you in a very awkward position, which can also interfere with the relationship. We tell people to commit to excellent self-care. You have to know that for you to be able to take care of another person, you yourself, you must be well. And we encourage people to do regular exercises, eat healthy, sleep well, consistent sleeping schedules, do hobbies, do something that you enjoy out of the ordinary. Have a hobby that helps you relax. Of course, we also tell people to seek professional help, and we have interpersonal therapy, family therapy, couple therapy, help. We are there. We are there to help you when you feel lost. And of course, always in a relationship, have realistic expectations. Do not expect to meet all the needs of your partner all the time. And equally, you should not violate your boundaries in order to maintain the relationship. Find a way to compromise and grow so that you feel both safe and supported. So realistic relationships in a family, in a relationship. I said that codependency is a very bad behavior that we see, especially for people with mental health, where one partner is trying to come in to support or to enable a behavior of the other partner who is sick. And what happened when one partner is doing that is that it leads to codependency. And most of the time, these people who are taking care of these sick people may get a burnout. And these burnouts present with irritability, outburst of anger, resentment, and infidelity. You might take care of someone who you feel is not understanding you. You end up getting into infidelity. Lastly, as I finish, I just want to go through mental disorder and substance use. Research has shows that many individuals struggling with mental disorders also have a substance use disorder. And why people, I have said earlier that no one just wakes up one day and decides to use alcohol till it spoils what is key to them. Most of the people use the substances, whichever substance they use, numb some pain, ease anxiety they are feeling, calm their nerves, and attempt to block memories they don't want to deal with. So it's a coping mechanism that many people use, especially when they're in stressful situation or when they are in, they have a mental disorder and they're not understanding what is happening to them. Using substances in this way can affect the treatment of a mental disorder. If you have a mental disorder and you start using substances, it may affect your treatment because the medication that you're working with cannot cope. You cannot combine medication and alcohol, for example, and it might worsen the symptoms of the infection that we are treating. Of course, also we know that brain changes occur when you're using substances, and sometimes the substances are the ones that trigger a mental disorder because you use substances which change your brain structures and bring about a mental disorder. So substances may bring about a mental disorder, and also having a mental disorder can worsen your use of substances. So that's just what I've tried to explain, that substances we've seen many people using, especially alcohol, as a way of coping when they have relationship challenges. But I want to tell people, please seek help. Do not run to substances, because at the end of the day, you'll go drink a lot, get drunk, but the bitter wife you left at home, you'll still find her as bitter as you left her, or even worse, because now you've even annoyed her more. So instead of going into alcohol or any substance to calm or ease your anxiety, deal with the issues that you have. And if you're not able to do that, kindly seek help. Of course, as I finish, is that mental health is not a destination, but a process. It is about how you drive, not about where you're going. And once you've accepted your flaws, no one can use them against you. So I wish you a good day and a happy Valentine's Day. I know a conversation will follow with the psychologists who are going to tell us more. So Victoria, I want to start. Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Waturi Kibuti, consultant psychiatrist. You've given us real insight into the correlation between poor mental health and lack of skills in solving conflict. So it's kind of a chicken and egg thing, like, is it poor mental health which is causing poor conflict resolution, or is it poor conflict resolution that's bringing about poor mental health? And we've seen the correlation. But again, the doctor is saying that if the condition is not treated, sometimes it is not even diagnosed, then that is when there is a problem. Thank you very much, Daktari. We will take up from there. And I'd like to invite Arthur to discuss one of the issues that we have which brings about conflict is money issues. So there's that age-old debate that, for example, if your wife is working, her money is her money, but your money is our money, and that is a real source of conflict. What would you say about that, Arthur? Kindly take it up.
Thank you so much, Victoria, and happy Valentine's Day to all the people who are logged in today. My name is Arthur, and the interesting part and of this discussion that I'll touch on is about money. And I know every other time that people are trying to get into a relationship, there is always that discussion of what are you bringing on the table. And I know today there will be a number of, such kind of discussion on probably what has your partner provided for you, and especially the men, what are you providing today? So the issue of money and finances has always been a great issue and has brought a good number of conflicts into relationships. And we start this by, going back to our traditions. We are human beings, and we are actually streamlined by our core values, some of which have been shaped by our cultures. And if at all we can, shape our understanding today with the African culture, it is true that in the African tradition, a man used to be known as a man because of what he's providing or probably what he has. So if at all you want to be a great man with power, you must be able to provide maybe, for your family in terms of maybe money, not money. By that time, probably it was about, the cows, the goats, and what have you. So it is what you had that time that used to make you a man. We have carried that particular kind of a thought, and we have been shaped by the same kind of concept even today in the modern world, whereby we believe that a man should be able to provide, of which is very, very true, that a man should be able to provide. But then again, we find it to be an issue probably in the modern world, whereby the man is working, the lady is also working. And therefore, at times, and I'll go back to the time of COVID, when probably a good number of people lost their jobs, and they went back home, they closed their businesses, and they had nothing, as an income. Some of these people were men, and I've lost my job, I've lost my income, and my wife is the one who is, providing for this particular family. It becomes an issue when now we start going back to our African concept and the understanding that we have carried all along from the traditions. And I, as a man, I start now asking myself, am I a man enough? Because I'm not providing, I'm not, chipping in and into, providing for or taking care of my responsibilities. And my wife is here; she's taking care of every other things in my house. Am I a man enough? So this particular kind of a man now becomes tend to develop insecurity. And that kind of insecurity can grow and becomes a source of frustrations, whereby he's feeling as if now he's being, he doesn't have the power. And again, this is not only about the man. At times, you can find the woman or the lady now starting to, ask themselves, is he probably, does he love me? Because he's not providing for me. And you find that probably that kind of thinking brings about conflict here and there, misunderstanding, and even lack of communication. And at times now it brings in the issue of conflict. Now, in my own understanding, to end this particular kind of an issue of money and finances, we need to be very precise, and especially when we are falling in love. When you're falling in love, it's not all about the looks. It's not all about, he's a good man, she's a good lady. It's also about bringing into the discussion as early as possible about the finances. What happens if at all your man will not be able to provide in future? What happens if your wife or your girlfriend, probably in future, she's gonna earn more than you? So we have to bring this kind of discussion as early as possible to make sure that, yes, we are in agreement, we are in congruence with what is going to happen in the future. And again, in terms of the properties that we buy, because when we fall in love and when you get into a relationship, definitely you're going to buy a number of properties here and there. And therefore, in terms of the properties, you find that there will always be a conflict of the inclusion. I've bought a plot here and I've not included my wife. And therefore, she starts probably feeling like she doesn't belong. I've bought probably a land somewhere, and probably I've not included her in the relationship. I've started building a house somewhere, and maybe my husband doesn't even know whether this is happening. So we must be able to discuss finances and even the properties that we share effectively and in an open manner to prevent or to minimize the conflicts that we have around. And the most important thing is for us as human beings and as partners in love to make sure that we are challenging the negative concept of the traditions that we have that have been passed to us from time to time. We are able to know that, okay, this is the modern world. A man is a man when he's doing this, a woman is a woman when she's doing this. But when we bring in the traditions that are quite toxic, we will definitely bring or carry or resort into a conflict in our own relationships. I don't know probably whether, Victoria, you have something to add on your end, but I think in my own views that, yes, This particular kind of conflicts start when we are carrying the traditions and the concept and the definition of what a man is and what he's supposed to do, and what a woman is and what she's supposed to do in a relationship. And of course, we know that we have unique responsibilities that are carried out by men and unique responsibilities that are carried out by women in our understanding as in the tradition. But then today we are talking about shared responsibility. I believe with a shared responsibility, open communication, and us being able to challenge those kind of strongly held beliefs from the traditions, will be able to foster very healthy relationships in the future. Thank you so much, Victoria.
Thank you, Arthur. I think you've put it very well, and especially when it comes to finances, I think the big factor is about transparency. Yes, we are still stuck in quite traditional roles, but times are changing. And nowadays, it's actually very hard for just one partner to be taking care of the finances within the family. But how do we go about it? Do we pull our resources together and work on one budget, or do we have hidden resources here and there? So that brings us to one of the things that is important to discuss. We have lots of abuses, not just physical, emotional, but even financial abuse can also be something that will bring about conflict within the family. I would like to ask Faye, the one of our psychologists, what would you say about the cycle of abuse? Faye?
Thank you, Victoria. Hi, everyone. My name is Faith. So yes, when we are talking about issues of love, and as Dr. Kibuti started by saying that love can really make people go crazy. And yes, we've seen a lot of abuses in relationship, even in marriages. Yeah, and I would just want to take us through the cycle that happens that makes people stick in abusive relationships. I'm sure some of people wonder, why would you have to wait until you're dead? Or why would you have to wait until you're banned so that you can leave the relationship? So there's a cycle that happens that make people stick into abusive relationship. And what happens is that there's a state of calmness. Yeah, you're in that relationship, all is going well. And then before you know it, tension starts to build. Yeah, you drop a cup and your partner starts to call you names. You know, you put the shoes in the wrong place and they start to quarrel. So tension starts to build. And as the victim, one of the key things that people do is that they try to reduce tension by complying to what the partner wants. Yeah, so they will make sure that the house is in order. They will know that if I cook not very tasty food, my partner will be very abusive. So they will try to appease that and do what the partner expects. But then before you know it now, the tension builds, and it gets to a point now that it explodes. Now the abuse takes place. The abuse, as Victoria has mentioned, it can be sexual abuse, it can be verbal abuse, physical, emotional abuse. So maybe one day something happens, and it could be a very minor thing. Probably you came in late. You should have been here by 6 p.m. in the house, and you show up at 10 p.m. and he comes up and he beats you up, yeah, or she. So what happens is after the abuse, the actual abuse, the cycle goes on to move to a very interesting stage, which explains why many people stay in abusive relationship, which is the honeymoon stage. Now, at this stage, the abuser will try to make amends. Yeah, they will be very sweet. They will buy flowers. They will tell you the sweet things that you want to hear. Remember, they are very good at mastering your points of need. Yeah, what is it that you're providing that makes you vulnerable to abuse? It could be excess need for approval. Say they will provide that. It could be that you have high levels of self-doubt. So at that moment, they'll be there to affirm you, to validate you. It could be increased sense of fear of abandonment. They will be like, I will not leave you. I will be there for you. I remember recently there was a clip of, I think like 2 months ago, a lady who posted on social media holding a car key of, and she mentioned that this is the price that the partner bought her, sorry, after physically assaulting her. Yeah, she had been bought a very expensive car, And that's the honeymoon stage that we are talking about, that these partners will go to lengths to assure you that they've changed. Yeah, some of them would even give their life to God. Yeah, quote unquote. They will actually confess that they've changed, and they will get born again. They will change their company just to make you hooked into the sense that they've changed. So that's the honeymoon stage. And this is why many partners find it difficult to leave, because it becomes very difficult for them to understand that my partner is abusive, but this time around is showing me a lot of love. Yeah. Then after that honeymoon stage, now what happens is that calmness goes back. Things stabilizes, and there's a lot of, reassurance. There's a lot of validation. But then before you know it, now tension starts to build again, and the cycle continues. So that's briefly the cycle that happens. But most especially, the honeymoon stage is what makes people stick in unhealthy or toxic relationships. Thank you, Victoria.
Thank you, Faith. I think before we proceed to Brian, who is to discuss on something to do with communication and criticism and all that, I would like to ask Ada to just talk about trauma bonding and trauma detaching, because that has a lot to do with the cycle of abuse. So kindly, in 2 minutes, tell us about trauma bonding and trauma detaching.
Thank you so much, Victoria. Yes, trauma bonding. The understanding of trauma bonding is where a partner develops quite unhealthy attachments with the abuser. In that case, the partner, and it becomes kind of a cycle, as Faith is talking about. Whereby now this particular person is in a very toxic relationship, but then again, they are not able to bring themselves to the understanding or to the reality that they need to move on, or they need to probably move out of this particular kind of a relationship. So you'll find that there is something, or there are things that are happening, but then again, they are recurrent, but this particular kind of a partner is not able to move on. She's still, or he's still probably entangled with this particular partner. Now, there are a number of signs or probably stages that you'll notice, or that will give you the knowledge of the know-how that I'm in a trauma bonding relationship. Number one is whereby probably this particular kind of partner is doing what we call gaslighting, whereby this particular partner makes you doubt, your reality. Something happens, but then again, you're blamed for whatever that has happened. Your partner cheats, but then they come home and they tell you, I was cheating because you did this and this. So you're left wondering, or you're left you're left confused. Am I the one who contributed to this? And what do you do next? You now start probably compensating for them not to cheat again. That is trauma bonding, gaslighting. Number two, you will know that you're in a trauma bonding relationship when probably you are now having what we call love bombing, like Faith was putting it. They really know, your partner really knows what you want. They really know exactly your needs, and they will provide exactly what you need at that particular moment. If at all it's about attention, they will give you the attention to a particular to a point whereby you now start doubting, hey, this is the relationship that I needed. I never thought that he can give me this love. Even your friends will come in and question you, why are you still in this relationship? But you'll tell them that this particular partner is now providing me with what I needed. But they will do that for a particular period of time, and probably is a month, and after a month they are nowhere to be seen, and you're back to where to the abuse. Probably the physical or the emotional abuse now start happening again. The other issue is whereby we look at what we call the emotional addiction, and with the emotional addiction, this is a time whereby this partner will not feel like they need to move on. They are at a point whereby they say that I want to get out of this relationship. They move out of the relationship, but then again, after 2 or 3 days, they now start becoming very isolated. They start feeling lonely. They start missing the abuser, and definitely they will start probably calling them, texting them, and at the same time, they go back to this particular kind of a relationship. And I'm very sure maybe in your lifetime, the people who are in this forum, you have ever seen someone who tells you that, okay, me, I feel like, the guy was beating me, the guy was abusive, or the girl was abusive, but then again, I still miss this particular person. You ask yourself, why are you missing the person who actually, abused you? Is because of this, emotional addiction. They are emotionally attached to this particular kind of a relationship, and they cannot be able to end such kind of a relationship. The other thing is about criticism. You are in a relationship where there is a lot of criticism. Your partner will end up, criticizing you for every other shortcoming that is happening in the relationship, and you end up feeling as if you are the one who has all the weaknesses. You doubt, and your confidence and your self-esteem goes down because of all this criticism that is happening, and what have you. Then the other issue is about trust and dependency. Now, in terms of trust and dependency, is more related to love bombing, but this is where by now the abuser will do everything to make sure that they are gaining your trust. Will do everything to make sure that the partner is gaining their dependency. You cannot do anything without them. So you end up, remaining in that relationship because, number one, maybe I cannot be able to cook for myself. Now, I cannot be able to live by myself. I cannot be able to do some things or to take care of my bills by myself. So they will make sure that you trust them. They will make sure that you're becoming dependent on them. And they will control you to a point whereby maybe, you cannot do anything precisely without them. They will make sure that you have lost your friends, you have lost your family members, and the only person that you can be able to trust and to depend on is this particular abusive partner. That is when now, if at all there is a conflict, if at all there is an abuse that is happening in the relationship, you'll not be able to move on because, again, you lost your family, you lost your friends. The only person who matters in your world is this particular partner, and he or she is abusive at the same time. The other thing is about resigning to control. When people resign to control, they have already lost the control. They have already lost the self. Their confidence and their self-esteem has been destroyed. And what happens? They resign now to the control. Now they give up. They don't have anything that they can do to change the situation. They cannot be able to bring them to get themselves out of this relationship. And what happens? They now resign to the control of this particular person. And that's why you will hear people say, he's beating me, he's emotionally abusive, she's emotionally abusive, she's emotionally abusive. But what can I do? I cannot be able to move on. I cannot be able to live without this particular person. Those are some of the signs that can tell you that you're in a trauma bonding relationship. And what can we do to end this? Number one is to get to know that this is happening and is not right. You are aware that this is happening and is not right. Very, very important step. And number two is to realize that at that particular moment, you really need some help, either from a professional provider or probably from a confidant, maybe a friend, maybe probably even a family member. You'll be able to realize that they will be able to help you. The other thing is about self-care. You've been able to, love yourself first of all, because we always say that you cannot pour from an empty cup. When you realize that, okay, I'm becoming emotionally drained by this relationship, you first of all love yourself, take care of yourself, and you'll be able to move on. And then another thing is all about having future goals, being able to define what do I need. Because if at all you don't have the future goals, you'll always, get out of this relationship. And then again, now because you don't have the future plans, you get back again to the, the abusive or the toxic relationship that you are in. We can end it by saying that the most important bit is when a person now gains the control, and you gain the control by, realizing that this is a journey. When you are emotionally addicted, it will not take a day for you to, get back your happiness or get back your control of emotions as an event, but it will take time. So realize that it's a journey and be able to embrace that particular journey. Thank you so much, Victoria.
So thank you, Arthur, for that elaboration. I would like to ask Brian Olela to kindly wind up for us. When we talk about fighting fair, because there's communication, or lack of it, and there's so much conflict within the relationship. So with my husband, with my boyfriend or significant other, when we talk about fighting fair, what exactly are we alluding to?
Good morning. My name is Olela, psychologist from Chiramo Hospital, and I just want to take us through just briefly about fighting fair. So just from our discussion today, it seems like arguments and disagreements are almost inevitable in every relationship. So as we look at fighting fair doesn't tell us not to argue. It tells us how to argue and how to argue constructively so that our relationships are not in jeopardy. So what do we go about fighting fair? To resolve an argument or a conflict, you have to prepare for it before it starts. So the best way to resolve a disagreement is to plan before it actually begins. It's very obvious and very clear that disagreements are going to happen at a certain point, but then we do not prepare for that. Things can be very rosy for a long period of time so that when a conflict arises, it catches us off guard. So fighting fair highlights us to some of the things that we need to do in the event of an argument, just to make sure that we remain on target and do not involve or introduce other challenges that are non-existent to begin with. So to begin with, the first thing is to find out, why are you actually upset? Are you upset because plates were left on the sink, or are you upset because relationships are not being shared equally in a relationship? So in the event, the first thing is to find out, why are you actually upset to begin with? Because it's so obvious and very easy for the topic to change abruptly over time. But once you have a clear picture of why you're upset and what is causing you anxiety or discomfort in the relationship, next is to communicate it. We need to be very assertive, right? Honesty saves a lot of time. We can go around in corners trying to protect our significant others, not to hurt them, but in fact, we are actually doing ourselves a disservice by not coming out cleanly and stating very directly some of the things that could be troubling us. The next thing in fighting fair is to discuss one issue at a time, right? Why is it that plates being left on the sink has now turned to maybe financial problems? So we want to get to a place where one topic is discussed at a single point. So it's not uncommon that several issues could be in a relationship, but attempting to resolve all of them at once can lead to stonewalling. It can seem targeted, and some people's vulnerability will be called out, which now more or less makes the conflict to continue and escalate. So find out what is making you upset, discuss one issue at a time. Then thirdly, no yelling, right? It is so common that we find ourselves yelling in such situations. It's not uncommon to find yourself that you start just yelling. It starts, you can be able to catch yourself as it's happening. The moment your volume starts going up, right, you need to first of all rethink. That is not the best solution, the best way to go about an argument. Other times, in an attempt to resolve problems, we actually create new ones that are not existent in the first place. So in as much as emotions are in play during a disagreement, you want to try and remain composed. And in the event that you're unable to do that, you ask for a timeout. Right? If you notice that you're getting angry and things are getting too much, ask for a timeout. But then timeout should not be used as stonewalling. If you ask for a timeout, is it 10 minutes? Is it an hour? Then after that 1 hour, you make a point to come back to the table and discuss the issue so that a lot of things do not remain pending and unsaid. Then express yourself using words. So one of the most important things in relationships is communication. But then how much do we actually put in to try and emphasize and improve on our communication? Being assertive, having to put our foot down and getting to a place where we can actually gain understanding and develop a compromise. So when you start developing the attitude of making a compromise, it makes things a bit easier. We have to be able to understand that not all argument will have a perfect ending, right? Not everything will be resolved perfectly. Certain things need time. That is why we reach a compromise. Then to reach a compromise, there has to be a very good sense of self-awareness. When you're completely self-aware, it's easier to make a compromise because you know what I'm making a compromise, that no one is perfect, someone is making an attempt, and then always find ways of keeping each other accountable, right? How many strikes? If you bring something up, it's not changed, it's not addressed over time. If you become passive, then resentment is built over the course of a relationship. So you want to get to a place where if you know that you're getting angry, you're not in a position to ask or continue a conversation, you ask for a timeout. So a timeout, but at the end of the day, you have to go back to the table and discuss exactly what was the issue to begin with. Then another rule in fighting fair is no stonewalling. This is now the attitude or the behavior of going mute, refusing to engage in a discussion and just letting the other person have a monologue. Right? So at times, stonewalling can be seen as a lack of interest, but in real sense, it is a defense mechanism. Some people are paralyzed by an argument. They don't know how to respond based on their attachment styles and their history in relationships. They know that when there's an argument, I respond by just freezing and shutting down. So stonewalling is a type of defense mechanism that people put up every now and then. And if you've noticed, right, you need to do a lot of introspection. We need to improve our self-awareness. If you notice that in the event of an argument, I shut down, I want to disappear from the scene and make sure that I am away from the problem as much as possible. Then when we go back to the house, it is actually pending and it's right there. Maybe it's gotten worse because we have bought time that is making the condition to be worse and worse. So no stonewalling, no yelling. Some of these things come automatically. I have to acknowledge the fact that during an argument or a conflict, emotions are at play. So emotional intelligence is also a very big part to emphasize. Some of these skills are not so easy to come by. We have to acknowledge as psychologists that not everyone is able to know how to be assertive, right? How to develop healthy boundaries. And the event that you notice that I'm not very good at maintaining healthy boundary, my communication is very rigid, or I'm too porous, and you lack assistance, that is now where a professional comes in, right? The same way we invest in all other aspects of our life, right? Finances, in professional life, it's the same way we need to invest in a relationship, right? Relationships also require investment, and the investments are more about personal attributes, learning about yourself, learning how you respond in the event of a conflict, learning some of your vulnerabilities and some of your shortcomings and how they might present in a relationship, and especially in an argument. And this one brings me now to the second part, which we call feedback. Right? So feedback is a very important part of a relationship. It's so common for once in a while to want to highlight some of the things that our partners need to do differently. They need to do better, but we don't know how to go about them. Some feedback can be very sensitive and can touch on very key aspects of a relationship. For example, issues to do with weight, self-care, and appearance. If you notice that your partner is starting to put on uncomfortable weight, that could be a very tricky conversation to start. But then if you're uncomfortable with it, we need to address it, because if you don't, resentment piles up after a long period of time. So together with your partner, it's good to have conversations around this, right? How would you like to be given feedback? In the event that I notice that something that you're doing is off-putting, how do I bring it up? So I would say something like, for me, if you have feedback, I prefer you give it to me in person. If you want to give me feedback, don't do it in the morning, do it in the evening when I'm from work, because if you tell me in the morning, I'll be thinking about it the whole day. So it is very good to customize how you give feedback to your partner, have an open discussion, discuss how would you like to be more or less approached? How do you like me to bring up an issue that is sensitive and might be disturbing me? So when you come up with that, learn to customize and personalize your relationship that fits your partner's need. Develop specific times where you can talk about any pending issues. Right? So we want to warm up to this argument. Since we know it's inevitable and it's going to happen, why are we walking in unprepared? Right? Let us find ways of arguing productively and constructively by applying the fighting fair rule. So those are the ones I'll go through just for now, and I'll hand it back to Victoria.
Thank you very much, Brian. Thank you very much for the very insightful contribution on fighting fair. And I believe we will take this up in part 2, which we will definitely have to have happening, because there's so many things that we've not been able to discuss, like the 5 love languages. Brian has talked a lot about stonewalling, about attachment. What exactly are those terms? We need to define them. So today, in a nutshell, what were we trying to do? To develop a practical framework and toolkit for partners, couples to navigate conflict constructively and strengthen their relationship, with the foundation being, what is the correlation between your mental health and romantic relationships? So finally, it's important for you to think about yourself introspectively. It's not always the other person who is toxic. Sometimes you could be the problem, and you could be running around with a mental illness that is not diagnosed, which is why it is important to go through our self-assessments, where you're able to assess yourself for any mental illness. If you log onto the Chiromo website, you will be able to see self-assessments. Take an assessment for depression, for anxiety, for burnout, alcohol use disorder, and then you'll be able to come up and see a psychologist for something conclusive. And once you get the necessary help, it will probably turn around the dynamics of your relationship. So kindly look out for part 2, which we will put in our website, in our social media handles, probably within the next week or 2 before the love month of February is over. And with that, would like to say, have a lovely, happy Valentine's Day. Be safe and stay blessed. And with that, we come to the conclusion. Thank you.